Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast brought to you by Sling. Welcome to our new advertiser, Sling. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie. We are here to discuss all things fantasy baseball, of course. Early observation. We're going to talk about some of the starting pitchers. Almost everybody has had one turn through the rotation. By the time we've started this podcast, by the time we finish this podcast, almost everybody will have made their first turn in the rotation. Today is fifth starter day for some teams, first starter for others, and just some jumbled up mix of that all the way around. Fred, how are your fantasy teams doing so far?
I think so far so good. I think the most important thing for anyone's fantasy team actually early in the season is just that your best players are healthy. So, like slow start, whatever, it's so early in the season. So don't have any Jackson Chourio, for example, which has been advantageous so far. But yeah, the teams actually are playing pretty well. I think the two things in the first, say, like 2 weeks or so of the season, no big injuries. You're going to have an injury. I have Cody Ponce, who we'll talk about at some point here in a few minutes in a league or two, but no big injuries. And then I would say the other one is that you just don't bury your ratios in the first. That's an annoying one. If you just have, a few Ian Seymours and, one Ian Seymour, sure, a few Ian Seymours, and all of a sudden you're last in your ratios. And I've had that happen. I had that happen in LABR, I think, in the last couple of years once. And it's just really hard and annoying to climb out of.
Can I interest you in an Ian Seymour and a Matt Swanson in the same roster? That was fun.
The interesting thing would be if you dropped both of those players today, would anyone pick them up?
Well, I did drop Swanson, so you can have at it, by the way.
I don't think anyone would pick up either one of them right now in that league. Seymour would get picked up if he gets back in the rotation. Swanson would get picked up, obviously, if he got a save. But right now, I think, what I noticed, we'll go off on our first tangent here. Excuse me. There's a huge roster crunch in fantasy right now. There are so many unsettled closer situations that most of us are trying to hang on to one or two Swanson types, like one or two, and a guy from the Athletics, a guy from the Nationals, right? A guy from the Cardinals. Like most of us are trying to hang on to one or two of these players, and then you throw in an injury, and then next thing you know what I mean? Your bench gets really small. Assuming you don't have IR slots too, if we're talking NFBC style. But this is definitely a time of the year where there are more players that you want to pick up than players that you're willing to drop. That's how I was limited on Sunday. I listened to your podcast with Scott. I can't remember if you specifically talked about that much, but that's where I was really limited on Sunday. Is there in a lot of leagues, there were like 5 guys I wanted to pick up, but only 1 or 2 that I was willing to drop. And that doesn't, later in the year, it's not quite like that, I find.
One of the things I'm actually trying to do this year is be a little bit more proactive and erring on the side of dropping and not preventing myself from picking guys up. Because, I think you got to take your shots here early on. You got, especially with closers. I know it's so many teams that don't have 2 closers, so many leagues where I don't have 2 closers, and it's pitching almost universally where I'm making all my pickups right now is pitching. There's an occasional batter or two where I'm like, oh, he's playing more than I thought. But in most of my leagues, I focused on getting everyday players in those slots to begin with. So unless I have injuries there, I'm not really trying to pick up too many hitters. Almost all my pickups this week were pitchers. But I'm of the notion there that, okay, I'm going to make mistakes anyhow. Why not keep churning and trying to find these are my bottom roster spots anyhow. I didn't spend a lot on Matt Swanson. I didn't spend a lot on Ian Seymour. Well, a little bit of Seymour in one league in AL Tout Wars. I held on to him in Tout. Sure. And Seymour actually started the 9th inning last night too, and against the Brewers on Monday night. They just did the lefty righty thing though, so Kevin Kelly got the 1-out save. Thanks a lot there. But that's the sort of thing though that you're dealing with. And I didn't have Seymour active in that league either. So, but it's fine because I wanted to take a shot on Carmen Mlodzinski. I wanted to take a shot on Kobe on Sands, or a shot on Hancock. These are the pitchers I wanted to take shots on. So I was more willing to kind of say, okay, well, if it's a mistake to drop Swanson, I can always try to pick him back up anyhow. You don't like to do it the boot and reboot, but sometimes you have to. And it's better than not getting anything, I think. And then holding that guy that you don't want anyhow, like Spencer Arrighetti, no problem, gone. He got sent down, no problem. But a guy like Swanson, even then, I'm kind of like, yeah, I can always get him back again.
I found, part of my dilemma was actually just trying to decide how many hitters like I had to keep. Like I was like, okay, you can't have 7 pitchers on your bench. Like you probably should have a hitter or 2 on your bench, because there was one league in particular where there, like you said, like there was several pitchers that either interesting possible closers or a starter who had a nice first start, and I wanted to add them, but I also wanted to keep the pitchers I already had. And then I was like, oh, I've got like a Trevor Larnach or someone like that on my bench. Like that guy's not interesting really at all, but can I drop him? Like, can I just have like no hitters on my bench for a week, or like one hitter on my bench for a week? And I'll just like take the chance that by Friday, I don't have any injuries and I don't need a hitter. And then maybe I'll by next Sunday, I'll be more willing to drop 1 or 2 of these pitchers, and I can get back to like, you know what I mean? I always feel like I should probably have 2 hitters on my bench, and that those 2 hitters should cover most of, like if you're doing a league like NFBC with Friday, the option to put in hitters on Friday, like I should at least 2 hitters on my bench, and those hitters should cover all or mostly all of my.
You don't need a third catcher, for instance. So, but it's nice to cover middle, corner, and outfield.
Yeah, and maybe only have 1 third baseman on your team, and you're like, hey, I don't want to put a third baseman on my bench. If my third baseman gets hurt during the week, I'll just have to live with zeros on the weekend. Like it is what it is. But you kind of want to have like your outfield group covered, and like you said, like your corner and middle kind of covered somehow. So at least with someone. So anyways, yeah, I could easily on all my benches have a lot of hitters. Actually, a lot of pitchers. One thing that's made it better for me in some leagues, and I'm sure for you too, is because all of these prospects that I drafted have made the team, except Connor Griffin. I have him in LABR, but the LABR has unlimited IL, so I'm not quite as pinched in that league. But in all of my NFBC leagues, like I drafted some Weatherholt, I drafted some Carson Bench. They're all on the team. So otherwise I would have been even more pressed because I wouldn't have wanted to drop them. You know what I mean? And I would have been sitting there being like, oh, am I dropping Carson Bench? He's in AAA. I could pick up Cole Sands. I kind of want to pick up Sands, but I don't know if I want to let go of Bench. So those young players making the team and being able to go into my lineup has been really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And I see the logic behind that there. I don't mind this 1 week. And fortunately, I like things worked out for me. Like I drafted McGonigal, not Griffin. So I have him active already anyhow. I already have that guy. In fact, in some leagues, I've got to decide between McGonigal and Bryson Stott as my active player right now, because McGonigal was my 4th middle infielder there. Now he's going to get third base eligibility, and that's going to be awesome. And that's going to be very helpful for me there. But I also filled up my UT spot with the DH, and that's always kind of like limits that flexibility too. So that's actually a tactical error on my part. But like I have Christian Yelich in one of like the 18,000 leagues where I have Yelich, I can't put McGonigal there. So I have to make that hard decision. And yeah, it would be ideal to really not have to make that decision, but better that than not having anybody for that spot.
You're right. And also, you just alluded to the fact that in about a week, 2 weeks, we're going to see an influx of a handful of players getting extra position eligibility. And we're kind of waiting on some of those things right now. Like you mentioned, McGonigal in third base. There's like Luis Garcia on the Nats in first base. There's just a few players like it just is what it is, by the middle of April, and maybe even more by late April. And then that's going to give you a little more roster flexibility. And then could even also at that point decrease how many hitters you need on your bench. But you still need some. And by then the pitchers will have sorted themselves a bit. Although I did have, as I was listening to you and Scott, I did have a bit of a revelation where I thought to myself, and I don't know if this is how it'll play out, but it just feels like there are so many unsettled closer situations right now that may not really get closure in the next couple of weeks. And I wonder if we'll be chasing our tails as collectively as a league, if we'll be chasing our tails with some of these relievers for a long time, and that we'll look back at the end of the season and talk about how much money was spent in Fab on all of these. Like this week, it was Jordan Romano, Cole Sands, Ryan Stanek. You know what I mean? Like next week, will it be 2 or 3 other guys? The next week, will it be someone else? And I wonder if we'll look back even in July and be like, man, we like collectively, we have spent a lot of Fab on possible save sources just because there were so many teams where random guys were getting saves. And then someone was like, well, I'm going to at least price him for us. This guy got a save, yesterday I'm going to bid 30 or 40. I'm interested to see if that's how it plays out. And then I wondered if then the people who just drafted, Yohan Duran and Pete Fairbanks will be the ones kind of laughing and being like, well, you know what, I'm not using all this fab on these Cole Sands types because I've already got my closers.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I do have one league like that, and it is very nice. It's a 12-teamer where I do have both Mason Miller and I have and Palencia, who has had 0 save chances so far, but still, I've comfort in knowing he is the guy and he's good at baseball. So I feel
zero concern if one of your closers has 0 save chances. All you care about is the number of blown saves at this point.
Exactly there. And those were plentiful. Saw a suggestion there, like, and that's the whole point of, like, I like going with the extra pitchers early on, so you can pick up someone like Grant Taylor, as Jose suggests here, or you can pick up one of the Houston guys because you're worried about Brian Abreu, like AJ Bluebaugh. Or you're picking up, Sands. If you even have that's a little bit more expensive, but yeah, I want that flexibility to be able to do that there. So I like having. That's why I like in the main event. I only have one bench hitter, but it's Jonathan India, who's second, third, outfield, which means middle, corner, also. So it covers almost everything. And then all I have to deal with there is, like, if Grant, and I think I have 2 shortstops, so it's fine. I have 2 first basemen. That's fine. I don't really need any other hitters for the short term. Now, I say that now, and then 3 guys are going to get hurt this week, and then I'll be like, okay, then I'll have to adjust. But especially because I'm trying to find that second closer right now. So that's all there is to it. You mentioned Cole Sands, devastating injury yesterday. News on him is he's got an ACL sprain. He's going to be out for a while there.
Wait, Cody Ponce, you meant?
Cody Ponce.
You just said Cole Sands, and I was like, oh, Jeff, hang on. I bought Cole Sands in a fab league. I did not see that.
Cody Ponce. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Cody Ponce, yeah. So first start, really disappointing actually for me, even as a Blue Jays fan. The Blue Jays set the major league record for strikeouts in their first 3 games of the season with 50 over the weekend, and then you're like, okay, and now we've got this new guy, ready to make his first start with the team against the lowly Rockies. This was a 2-step for the ages. Like when I was writing, and so many of us in the industry were writing 2-start pitcher articles every weekend. When I was writing this one, I was like, oh my goodness, the Rockies and the White Sox, like, could it get any better than the Rockies and the White Sox? And his first 2 starts back, no one's seen him. This is going to be amazing. And then, sprained knee ligament. They're not really sure how much time he's going to miss. The quote today was something to the effect of, like, they're hopeful that it won't be the whole season. So as in, they're hopeful that it's not a complete tear. But it sounds like he's out for a long time, long enough that you'll be, dropping him everywhere.
Yeah. And and the thing is, they got pounded after Ponce left too.
Yeah.
Brian Little had a really rough start to the season. Miles got knocked around. They used a backup catcher, Taylor Heineman, and he gave up 5 runs, only to see, like, the Blue Jays score 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th and another one in the bottom of the 9th to make it where it would have been a close game had they not messed around with the backup catcher.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's all the variables in there. With the Rockies have used the same pitcher if the Blue Jays have been a little closer. But yeah, for sure. Heineman pitched, I think he pitched 2 innings. It's amazing how you can never have too much pitching in fantasy and you can never have too much pitching in the real thing. When the Blue Jays signed Max Scherzer, everyone was like, what are you signing Max Scherzer for? You've got, you Savage and Bieber, and you just brought Ponce back over to North America. Well, those guys are all in the IL now. And now the Blue Jays have Scherzer in the rotation and they still don't have a 5th starter. So, and they said they're going to find one, but I don't think it's going to be one that we want to pick up in fantasy at this point. So
exactly.
They are going to use a 5th starter. They have some off days coming up, but they're not going to skip spots. They said they are going to use a 5th starter. I think Savage will be back April 20th, something like that. So you probably need a 5th starter 2 or 3 times. And then Savage will be back. And if everyone's healthy, the rotation will be back good shape. But they've gone that Dodgers route where if everyone's healthy, they have 7 or 8 starting pitchers. So, and they're just hoping that they just have 4 or 5 always at a time.
They weren't planning on having to have it in April.
Not
end of March.
How about March still?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank God for Eric Lauer. And what a great performance.
He's one of the unsung heroes on the Blue Jays. He never gets much credit, but he was really, really good for them last year. And then they pushed him all the way down to like 8th starter or whatever it was on the depth chart. And he may end up spending most of the season in the rotation and probably doing a decent job of it. Yeah,
he lost his arbitration hearing too. Just a little stick in there for him. one of the few people that actually went to hearing, and he actually one of the few that actually lost. But yeah, so it goes. Minor leaguers getting paid. It's that time of season, but not for Connor Griffin. Instead, it's Cole Emerson and Cooper Pratt who got paid.
That's right. Cooper Pratt seems to be a little further away. Cole Emerson, I wondered if this will like clear the runway for him to get up pretty soon. I mean, it was discussed in spring training that it's a possibility. I don't know. You just look at the bottom of that lineup. I guess it'll depend how Cole Young does at the start of the season. But Emerson coming in at some point at second base, or coming in, I guess, at some point at shortstop, depending on how long JP Crawford ends up being out. I wondered if this could increase his timeline. It's just interesting. Like, I find not always, but often when a prospect signs a contract like this, it means their promotion to the majors is imminent.
Yeah, usually it does. Although I don't think Pratt's anywhere close.
Agreed. That was a really weird one.
It was odd. I thought it was really odd to see that there. And he's not their top shortstop prospect. He's not even their second shortstop prospect. Jesus Mate will probably play third base. That's what James Anderson is saying there. But for what it's worth, he's not the top one. Jet Williams is closer to being ready. He got hurt a little bit in spring training, but he's supposed to be the one that's up first. Yeah, they really like Pratt, though. It's kind of funny. Milwaukee is just loaded with prospects, though, too. That's the other thing that's kind of noteworthy is that they have a lot of other guys they could have chosen to extend. Somehow Pratt is their darling, or at least, is the one that got that. Maybe he's the one that was willing to take the deal.
Took the offer. This could be the net, like as a Milwaukee, like they're probably like the poster child now for a super smart small market team. I'd say they supplanted the Rays in that regard. So, this may be their next evolution of cost certainty is we're going to try to get some of these prospects on, we're going to make them rich for life, give them, depending on the prospect, 20 million, 30 million, 60 million, whatever. And then in return for being rich for life, we've got cost certainty on a player we believe in. And now we're putting the onus on our coaching staff at various levels to make sure that contract comes in under value for us.
Yeah, and they have them for 8 years, and then they move on to the next one. That makes a certain amount of sense. I get it there. Pratt's actually in AAA too, and maybe he's better defensively than Mate, so maybe that's kind of the mentality. At least we can put him in at shortstop. We won't lose much on defense because they're built so much on pitching and defense, and base running and things like that. So maybe he just fits their mode a little bit better and faster too. Maybe we're underrating him at least because on the basis of purely on his hitting stats there, perhaps that's part of his situation there. Might we see Connor Griffin? I'm curious to see when that happens next.
Yeah, he's the one who's just, I think, like there's been the rumors of a long-term deal. And I feel like if he signed a long-term deal tonight, he would be in their lineup tomorrow. Like, I think that's where we're at with him. I think that's how I think everyone knows he's at least like ready enough. Yeah. That if he had that long-term deal, he would be up. So, that's a different type of organization. Like, for sure. Like the Brewers are a smart, low-budget organization. The Pirates are just plain cheap.
They're just a low-budget organization.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So, so I don't know if that's going to come to fruition. I don't know. I'm sitting with him. Like I say, I'm sitting with him on my bench in labor. I kind of wish that I didn't. We'll see how it all plays out. I kind of wish maybe I just took Weatherholt or McGonigal instead, but maybe that's just the recency and the bias and the immediacy. You know what I mean? Like, if Griffin does get up in a few weeks, I'll be glad I have him because he does have like base stealing ability and probably raw power that the other guys don't have.
I don't have any Griffin. I kind of feel bad a little bit about that, although I love all my McGonigal and Weatherholt shares. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there. Griffin, by the way, 5 for 10 with 3 walks in his first 3 AAA games. So good start for Connor Griffin there. And yes, he would be up tomorrow if he signed a deal there. But knowing the Pirates, they're going to screw that up and totally lowball him anyhow there. So that's unfortunate, but that's probably the way of things there in Pittsburgh as far as that goes. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Monday pitchers. But before we do that, quick note from our friends over at Sling. Are you tired of paying for live TV you don't watch? With Sling, you can get the live sports, news, and entertainment you want only when you want it. Get your hands on a Sling one-day, 3-day, or 7-day pass starting at just $4.99. Get over 30 of your favorite channels for the best price and stop overpaying for full-time live TV plans. Sling has a pass for any occasion. Big game tonight? Grab a one-day pass for just $4.99. Want a full week of live TV for one low price? Get a 7-day Sling Pass. And for all those weekend watchers out there, you can enjoy live sports, news, and entertainment with a 3-day Sling Pass. Only Sling lets you watch when you want, so you can only pay for what you watch. Watch live TV on your terms, starting at just $4.99. Sling lets you do that. Use our link in the description below to sign up for Sling today. Ideal for if you're traveling, I guess. If you travel for work during the week, just come home for the weekend. I can see that being very useful. Or maybe
Absolutely.
or at your hotel, I suppose too. I'm curious to see how that works. But anyways, thanks to Sling for sponsoring us. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie. Lots of pitching news that happened yesterday. Fred, I got whipsawed a lot in a couple of these leagues here. Whereas fourth and fifth starters that were having good outings, and I picked the wrong ones in some instances. I know how you talked about how you had some FOMO for Parker Messick. I don't have FOMO for Parker Messick, but I didn't start him against the Dodgers this week in almost all of my leagues.
That's right. So, Jeff, you're getting as much out of Parker Messick as I am so far.
Yes,
you have him on your team, but neither one of us got the nice stat line last night. It's actually, but okay. So you're right, frustrating, but also really encouraging. With him I was high on him obviously already, so this is just confirmation bias for me. So take it with a grain of salt. But with him having a great start in LA against the Dodgers, it just. So sure, you missed out on that one. And it was a good start. It wasn't 12 strikeouts or something like that. 8 innings, 8 shutout, 12 strikeouts. It was definitely a really good start. It was disappointing to miss out on it.
Yeah.
But if he's good all season, if he makes 25 more starts and you can use him for all of them, I guess you can't use him for the next one because he's on your bench, but you use him for all the ones after that. Then it's still really encouraging. So I'd rather have missed out on Parker Messick or a Kyle Harrison or someone last night because I just didn't have room, felt like I had room in my lineup this week. I'd rather have missed out on them, obviously, than had, you know what I mean? Than had them just out of a blah start and be like, oh, at least I didn't miss out on anything good. Okay, sure. But next week, I don't really want to start him either. And
exactly.
So it's still good news for you, but I totally get, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It is really frustrating there. But yeah, and it's what's even more frustrating is that I chose other two-steppers that I thought judged to have better matchups, but maybe didn't like him as much as a pitcher and still went with it there.
Such as?
Oh, Jacob Lopez, come on down and you're 0 strikeouts and 5 walks against the Braves. How about that for starters?
I think I might have used him in one draft and hold. Jacob Lopez has got to be one of the weirdest pitchers in baseball. He had last year, I think he had 8 appearances with 8 strikeouts or more. Do you know how many really good pitchers could? It was something pretty sure it was 8 and 8. I'm pretty sure when I wrote about him in the offseason it was 8 and 8. It's just the number stuck in my head. Do you know how many really great pitchers didn't have 8+ strikeout outings last year?
Yeah.
And then he had these disastrous outings where he had actually totally disastrous outings, 2 innings, 8 runs, things like that. And then he also had a lot of blah outings. He's one of the weirdest ones, but you're right. They're playing the matchups a little too much. Chris Bassett was the other one. He had a poor start, and he had Texas and Pittsburgh this week. We'll see how the second start goes. Maybe he can salvage the week still, but he was one where when you looked at him, you were like, Chris Bassett's not really very good, but the matchups are pretty good. So I guess I'll go with him. And obviously it would have been better with Parker Messick. I don't know if the lesson there is, especially early in the season, maybe just go with the guy who you think is more talented, because although we think we know who have the good offenses and who have the bad offenses, maybe we don't know yet.
Right. For sure. And, Atlanta used to be a team we'd always run away from.
Yeah.
And then last year they were kind of bad. So we oh, okay, it's okay. You can do it now. It's safe. It's fine. Wasn't safe and fine yesterday. Actually, it wasn't totally disqualifying. Had Lopez gotten the strikeouts, it would have been okay.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
But Bassett was really bad for sure. So yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, you're a Jays fan, so you're like, I'm not falling for that one, I hope, right?
I think Chris Bassett's not very good anymore. Just watching him with the Jays, he was really good in the playoffs as a reliever. So sure, as a starter, it's just so not he's getting up there in years and he's just so not overpowering. I think Chris Bassett will grind his way this year with Baltimore to a 4.2 .2 ERA and a 133 WHIP. I just don't want that. Like in a mediocre strikeout rate. And the reasons Chris Bassitt is valuable to major league teams are not really useful for fantasy. It's just his ability to make 30 starts, right? Like 30 starts and an ERA around 4 is super valuable. There's so many teams, almost every team could use a guy who can make 30 starts and have an ERA around 4 and even average about, like, he'll average about 6 innings per start. Like he can eat a fair amount of innings. So,
yeah, and you look at the end of the year,
fantasy,
his numbers
I don't
will
want
be fine. They'll be fine, but not good. And that's just the thing. Like, and I used to make a mistake and get pitchers, too many pitchers like him. You can handle. You actually need 1 or 2 innings eaters just on your team. Just you can't take all shots on upside. I feel like you have to have some guys that are just going to take the ball for 30 starts in the year. But I used to overrate those guys just because on projection systems on our draft systems, they get rated too high because their overall numbers are going to be there. They're going to get about 10 wins. They're going to get about 150 strikeouts. So you get that, but on a start to start basis, they're not as valuable. So you miss out on the breakout guys if you take the accumulators like Bassitt a little bit too early. He's like the Nick Markakis of pitchers, at least Nick Markakis in his quasi prime. Where he's just like, okay, well, he's going to play 158 games, so you're getting the stats. Those sort of guys get evaluated or get overvalued as hitters and certainly as pitchers too.
For sure. Clay Holmes is a good example of that kind of pitcher too. He started last night. He had a little bit of a better start, but by the weekend, it could be that Clay Holmes has the bad start and Chris Bassitt has the good start because they're both trending along towards like a 130 WHIP. The last thing I want is a pitcher who's hurting my ratios pitching even more innings, because he's hurting my ratios even more. Like, that's just simple math. Like, I don't really want that. You're totally right. When you do projections, if you use like an SGP formula or something of that nature, it's amazing to see how much pitchers go up if you just add 10 or 15 innings to their total. Because when you add the 10 or 15 innings, you also add like a win and 10 or 15 strikeouts.
Yes.
And then how much they go down, same thing if you take 10 or 15 innings off their total. So, you do your projections and then you see where the numbers come out. And you're right. You try not to overrate the Clay Holmeses and the Chris Bassitts. I mentioned that I have a lot of Michael Wacha this year, but I didn't go out and get him. Like, he just kept falling. And
he's in the reserves.
Yes. And I could get him. Right. And in my SGPs, he actually came out as above. He came out as probably like a round 19 pick. Same. But I knew that was because the inning projection is pretty high. Mm-hmm. And then, so there's actually nowhere to go but down for him from where I projected him. So then I would not take him there, and I would take guys with upside more. And then I would pick him in like round 25. So one of my like things that I try to remember, especially in the middle or later rounds of a draft, is if I have 2 pitchers ranked similarly or projected out to where the SGPs say that they're valued similarly, I take the one with the least projected innings because I know he's the one with just the most growth. Right. So, So if I had Clay Holmes and Parker Messick ranked similarly, when I was thinking Parker Messick may not make the rotation, but Parker Messick, I had at 130 innings and Clay Holmes had at 160, then I would take Parker Messick because I'm like, there's massive growth potential here because he could do the 160. And there's only one way Clay Holmes can go, which is down.
Yeah. The other thing is you're required to have extraordinary patience if you have a staff full of Messicks and Jacob Lopez's and things of that nature there, because you're going to ride the up and down and you run the risk of them not making the team. Now, fortunately, like Connolly early made the team, Parker Messick made the team. But hey, that's great if you get Messick and not Joey Cantillo, who struggled in his first start and didn't have the command. Right. But that's the problem, is you're running a lot of variance there. But that's
so like you said, you need a bit of a mixture. You need a Bassitt or maybe 2, and you need you want to have like 2 or 3 Messick early Cantillo types, and then Braxton Ashcraft, Mike Burrows. Like, I could go on and on and on, right? You want to have 2 or 3 of those guys, and then just hope that maybe you hit. Ryan Weathers, there's another
Burrows you had to pay real price to get, though.
It's true. He kept climbing. I just mentioned Ryan Weathers too. He's another guy who kept climbing.
Yeah.
You could get him initially around pick, 280, 300, and then climbed way up after that. But
absolutely.
Anyway, some of those high variance. Kyle Harrison, another one who pitched last night, you could get at whatever it was, 260 or by the end. And you could get him earlier in draft season, you can get him later, and just high variance. If Kyle Harrison had a really good year on the Brewers, we would not be shocked because that's what the Brewers do with pitchers. Also, if Kyle Harrison threw like 50 innings this year and spent a bunch of time in AAA, we wouldn't be shocked either.
So, yeah, like how many people spent on Logan Henderson earlier in drafts, and they spent real draft picks, like picks in the teens or like late teens, early 20s on him. That was painful when he got sent down.
Like, what do you do with him now, right?
Yeah. But then again, you saw Brandon Sproat get knocked around by the White Sox on Sunday, so it doesn't last forever either. And injuries also happen. So again, if you have Henderson, can you hold on to him? How long can you wait? That's the tricky part with a lot of these type of guys. Mm-hmm. One guy that had a good start that I do have in a couple leagues, but I did not start this week, was Foster Griffin. Good start against the Phillies yesterday. You looked at that schedule, is at the Phillies and I think at Coors Field, if I'm not mistaken, for the second start. So it was like, okay, this is about the worst possible two-step you can have. But I liked what he did in spring training. I kind of liked some of the profile of him coming over. He's kind of a poor man's Cody Ponce. But obviously he didn't get hurt. He pitched well, and you stole a win if you had that going for you.
Yeah, I've got to assume, I didn't look up the start rate in NFBC, but I've got to assume it's like really low. Like, I feel like if you started Foster Griffin, either you've got a crystal ball or you just have a really bad pitching staff. You're like, whatever, I guess I got to start him. So I have no shares. I wasn't as in on him. We'll see, maybe as I should have been. I just felt like pitching for the Nats this year was going to be an uphill battle. Just because of the team, and then just the Nats haven't done a good job with pitchers or players in general. But in the last few years, I know new management group and analytics, and they've got it all figured out now, and it's going to be way better, and it may be way better. But anyways, I don't have any Foster Griffin just for that reason, but he's someone now who will climb on my radar. It's probably too late in 15-team leagues. He's probably sitting out there in some 12s.
He's still available. So sure. I just looked him up. He's 72% rostered in the main event. 60 leagues. Oh,
wow. Okay.
Rostered in 72% of them.
Okay. He
was active in only 12% of them.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah. Which makes perfect sense. Like, he shouldn't have been active. So, but the availability is interesting. But I guess if he had a 2-start week coming up and no one wanted him, and that old fantasy adage, which I don't totally buy, but it has some merit where if you're not going to use a guy in a 2-start week, why is he on your roster? Like, there are some clauses in that one, but like he hasn't pitched in the majors since 2022, and he's on a really crummy team and he has hard matchups. So, but anyways, I'm sure he'll be scooped up. Unless the second start's disastrous, I'm sure he'll be scooped up next weekend.
The 12-team RotoWire Online Championship won in 1%. Rostered in 1%, started in 1%.
There you go.
So there you go.
Could be a waiver wire. He could be a waiver wire guy, like in those formats. Main event, he'll almost for sure be picked up. Like in 15s, if someone's showing signs of being a reliable starter, they'll be added. 12s, not totally. So we'll see how the second start goes, but it's possible.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, hey, good start for him. Way to go. Huzzah. You're talking about people I didn't consider picking up. I'll give you 2 that I didn't pick up that had good starts yesterday is Bryce Pliny, the elder, and for the Atlanta Braves, who pitched well against those A's and has another start later this weekend. And then the other one would be a veteran in Lance McCullers for the Astros, who looked really good in beating the Red Sox yesterday.
Okay, so if you were going to pick up one of them today, which one would you pick up?
McCullers.
Yeah, for sure. You pick up McCullers because he'll probably be hurt in a month, but maybe we'll see. Like, at least there's something there. Like Bryce Elder, I can't. And I wonder if just the Athletics are just like ice cold. Like I mentioned, the 50 strikeouts in Toronto, and I like the Athletics lineup. So does everybody. I think they're going to have some high scoring games at home. Sometimes I try not to get early in the season. You have to be careful. Like, don't change your opinion on guys if one of the reasons you like them in the first place hasn't happened yet. Like, the home park is one of the reasons I like the Athletics hitters. They haven't played at home yet. So, and certainly not at home in the summer. So anyways, I wonder with Elder if just the Athletics are just, I don't know, they're just cold to start the season. The 50 strikeouts in Toronto was insane. And then just a bad start against a bad pitcher last night. And McCullers, I don't know. I'll have to dive in a little deeper on like the pitch level data. I know there'll be some people out there who will churn out some great pitch level analysis on McCullers, but my gut says I'm not rushing out to pick him up, but I will have to look at that first.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and great comment by PJ here in the forum, suggesting that the Braves sending Didier Fuentes down They did that yesterday. He pitched 4 innings on Sunday, so they sent him down. Sign that they need him to start sooner rather than later. I do agree with that. I think they even said they planned on using him in relief, then sending him down to stretch him out. Well, he did get stretched out anyhow on Sunday, but this is true. And also it gives them, they went through it a little bit with their bullpen earlier in the week too. So that gives them a little bit of an extra guy there for the back end of that bullpen too. Let's talk about a couple bad starts yesterday because there were a number of them. Justin Verlander, is he done, Fred? Are we going to overreact on this one here, or maybe just react a little bit there? How concerned are you about that horrible start against the Diamondbacks?
I was never drafting him and never adding him. I just looked at the whips the last 2 years, 136 last year and 138 the year before. And that's pitching for the Giants, who have a good home park to pitch in. And then the year before for the Astros, who do a really good job with their pitchers. I know last year the home park probably helped, but he gutted out a 3.85 ERA. But you should not in this day and age have starting pitchers with whips in the over 1.3. And I just felt like there was no reason to expect Verlander to have a whip under 1.3. Why at his age, after 2 years, well above 1.3, I was willing to miss out. If he turned back the clock and just had a whip of 1.2 this year, it would be a cool story. And it still might happen. But I was like, no, I'll just watch him from afar. I'll watch and cheer for that story, but not have anything of my own personal nature invested in it. So yeah, it definitely didn't look good. How about this? I think if you've picked up Verlander, either because he had 2 starts this week or because it's a cool story and you thought the Tigers and, they're going to win the AL Central and maybe he can be okay for them, I would be very comfortable dropping him. I would drop him for Lance McCullers. I would not drop him for Bryce Elder because I just wouldn't pick up Bryce Elder, but I would drop him for Foster Griffin. I would drop him for Foster Griffin. There's an easy one in a lot of leagues, or some reliever that catches my eye, but I would drop him at the end of the week unless we see something totally different in his second start this week. But I don't know. I think there's just way better gambles to take it than Verlander at this stage.
The Tigers are kind of like the Jays in that they had all this extra starting pitching and they're going through it right now. They're a team that I kind of think that, they're going to be a little bit of a struggle there to keep everybody healthy. They actually need Verlander right now with the Melton injury, with a couple other injuries in that rotation right now. But we'll see. I was really on Melton this year too. I was really bummed about that one. That one really let me down a little bit there. But
Reese Olson, that was the other one.
That was another tough one. Yeah.
So they might just, if they can, he's got to be better than he was yesterday, but if they can get Verlander to just keep giving them 5 innings, 3 runs, 4 innings, 3 runs, whatever, it might serve a purpose for them for a while. But I just think he has pretty much the least upside. Gamble on any of these other guys. Like I said, Foster Griffin, why not? Anyone else?
Yeah, exactly right. Okay, let's move on. Talk a little relievers, but before we do that, quick note here from our friends at the Blue Wire Network. Okay, thanks for that. Paul Sewald got a clean inning in the 9th to convert a save. God bless Joe Ross for creating the save chance there by giving up 6 runs in the 7th inning on that one to the Tigers, turned an 8-0 lead to an 8-6 lead. But Sewald looked really good. I think that was a takeaway for me.
Yeah, and he was the favorite, and going into the season for saves. And I know that I did some deep dives because I have some Sewald before I drafted him. There are some Arizona fans that really didn't want him to get the job. They just felt like he couldn't do it. But here we are. So there's no one else. There's Kevin Ginkel. There's not much else. So he's going to get the job for right now. He is, yes. So Sewald has instantly climbed. I haven't put an exact number at this, but he's instantly climbed inside the top 25 save sources. I don't know if I can't put him in the top 20, I think, but he's instantly climbed inside the top 25. So he's rosterable in 12-team leagues. He's and startable in 12-team leagues. Just while we see how this all shakes out, I'm not sure if he can keep this up. I spent $5 out of 100 in labor for him on the initial fab run, needing a second closer in that league, and we'll see. One thing I thought back to was at this time last year, what did we think of Emilio Pagan? Right?
Yeah.
At this time last year, Emilio Pagan.
He's always blown it. Yeah.
And he was coming off a season with a 4.50 ERA with the Reds, not even on a different team, with the Reds, a 450 ERA and a 134 WHIP. In the previous 2 seasons, he had 2 total saves. And at the beginning of the year, I picked him up in LABR for nothing or very little, and then got 32 saves out of him. Had lots of other things go wrong with my LABR team, so I wasn't close to winning that league. But that was one that worked. So I was like, you know what, Seawald for a few bucks, maybe he surprises me. Like, no one thought Emilio, even when I picked up Pagan, I didn't think he'd get anything close to 32 saves. I was hoping he could be the closer for like 6 weeks, and before he lost the job, and then hopefully I'd jump off quickly when he did, and then he ended up being really valuable. So some of these guys like Seawald, like that was my comparable though that I thought of.
Yeah, exactly there. I like that. It's always good to remember possession is 9/10 of the law. Chris Liss always said that. It's you're not looking for Mr. Right. You're looking for Mr. Right now. And he, Cole Sands appears to have the job right now.
Maybe
worth a bid. I don't know. There were some really aggressive ones out there. I talked him down to a lower bid on our main event league. So if we don't get him, that's my fault. We didn't get him, so that's my fault. So we originally had like a bid of like 160. I talked him down to 92. He went for like 130. So kind of shame on me as far as that goes. But it's the Twins. I had a hard time with that one. At least like you want to be, you don't have to be on a good team. You just don't want to have them be on a team that's really, really bad.
Yeah, for sure. But except that there's a lot of bad teams right now with unsettled closers. So it's like you almost have to pick. I was trying to rank some of these guys in my head, like on Sunday, like Jordan Romano, Cole Sands, Paul Seawald, Clayton Beater, who got a save on the weekend and was still sitting around in some 12-team leagues, maybe on the waiver wire. But they're all kind of the same. Arizona's maybe the best team out of that group. But they're all kind of the same. Like you don't really think necessarily any of them are good enough. One of the pitchers I just named is probably still the closer on the 4th of July. And the other ones probably aren't. So it was about trying to figure, and some of it is their talent, and there is a luck component to it too. Like I watched Jordan Romano come out with for his first save chance, after they'd lost Robert Stevenson, after they'd lost Kirby Yates to injury, and he comes out and faces the bottom of the Astros lineup with a 3-run lead, like the cushiest get going in the closer role save opportunity. The next day he closed out a 4-run lead. It wasn't a save, but it just starts building the confidence of the manager. That this guy can close out games. And then I watched poor Jeff Hoffman coming off that World Series homer come up for his first save chance of the season and face the top 3 hitters on the Athletics, Shea Langoliers, who was already having an amazing game, and he's got a 1-run lead. And you're just out there watching Hoffman being like, God, please don't give up.
You know what's coming. You just know what's coming.
And then Langoliers homers off, and the Jays went back to him, and I do think he'll be the Jays closer. Yeah. I think the Jays will give him a fairly long leash, and because the Jays plan to play in October, they know they could trade for a closer in July if they have to. Like if this just isn't working, I think they'll give him a fairly long leash. But anyways, going back to all those bad closers, like you have to mess around in this unless you invested a lot in the closer pool, and I didn't. So you have to mess around with all these guys. And I was trying to rank them all, but it's almost impossible.
It really is.
Like ranking them. It's almost a little bit luck based. Like I said, who gets to protect the 2 or 3-run leads instead of the 1-run lead? Who serves up their homer on the day they have the 3-run lead, not the 1-run lead. Just a little bit of that plays.
And the funny thing is, one of these guys this week or maybe next week is going to get the job all season long, and they're going to get 30 saves. And whoever gets that is going to feel great about it. But I guarantee you didn't feel great about winning Jordan Romano this week or winning Cole Sands this week. It might be good. Might be good. Ryan Stanek, I won in some leagues, one being in scare quotes there, because I'm not sure if that's a good pickup there. He's not, wasn't even especially good. The Cardinals were just setting him up to get the save chances, though. That's the one thing I did. Like, they didn't use him in the 9th on Saturday in a 4-0 game, but the second there was a save chance, that's when they brought him in. And that's the sort of thing if you're investing in that, that's what you want to see. That's what you want to have.
Yeah, exactly. Jumping back to Romano, he was one of my all-time. I'm bidding on him. I actually need him. I'm bidding like a competitive amount. I didn't get him in anywhere, but I was bidding like whatever, like 75, 90, something like that. And as I'm putting in the bids, I'm like, God, I hope I don't win this guy. His ERA last year was 8.23. Like He has one save, and I'm bidding like a tenth of my, 10% of my. I'm going to bid $100 on this guy with one save coming off. It was his ERA was the year before was 6.59. He didn't pitch that much that year, but like I'm bidding 10% of my budget on this guy. This feels foolish, but he could get me 30. He could actually get 30 saves. But it was when I've been in that place a bunch of times with closers, over whatever 25 years, but this was a big one where I was like, okay, 85.
Yep.
God, I hope I don't win them.
Yeah.
Let's make that 73. We'll go to 73. I really don't want to win them.
Well, there's nothing worse than winning it and and he loses it right away, or B, you win it like 92-1 or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. You knew, I think in week 1 with Romano, that wouldn't happen.
Right. For sure.
Because it's week 1 in August, that could happen with someone like him. But in week 1, you knew that you probably wouldn't happen. But yeah, it's true. Anyways, I didn't win him anywhere. I didn't want to win him anywhere, but I wasn't totally just pricing for it. I actually needed him. Like I actually had teams with one closer and I needed him, but I was like, I still don't know if I want him.
Yeah. And that's the way I was with Sands. And so I didn't want it bad enough. I didn't get him.
I got him in one spot for about 45. That was kind of where I was like, okay, less than 50. I got to give that a shot, like for the potential of 30 saves.
Yeah. I did, in the onlines, the 12 teamers, it's weird. I won the league where I won Sands. I won him 57-17. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Earthseg went for 191 to 138 in that same league. Jordan Romano went 161 to 97 in that league. I mean, they might have better chances, better shots. Like, I think Earthseg's going to be the guy. He didn't pitch yesterday. That's only because he pitched both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So, but I do think Carlos Estevez is pretty close to being toast. I don't, the fact that they haven't put him on IL yet is kind of surprising to me. He is in a walking boot. It's almost like it's kind of a cover a little bit there. But they used Schreiber yesterday, but I don't think Strom was even available either. So I don't even think Schreiber's like third in line. It's just the way they went and did that there. But I think Erseg is someone I definitely want because he's actually good too.
And the team's better. And like, I think like I picked the Royals and the Tigers to finish, as the top two teams in the Central. Like, I also think that compared to a lot of the other teams we mentioned, like the Royals have aspirations to make postseason. They actually need to figure out their bullpen. Like the Nats actually and the Twins, like they don't really need to figure out their bullpen. Like figuring out their bullpen versus not figuring out their bullpen might just be the difference between winning 67 and 70 games. Like it doesn't really matter. For the Royals, it actually matters. So they will be. So I agree. I didn't have any opportunities to get Erseg, and in my last draft of the season, he was hanging around, and I don't know what round we were, maybe about 23 or something, and I was like, I should get him. Estevez is never going to last. And anyways, I didn't and regretted it. So I should have, because it was so, you could see it coming. So Estevez lasted in the Tout Wars Champions League, which was the last live draft I did this year. He lasted till round 17, and that was still too early.
Yep. And that's the funny thing is, Tyler Hoppy, who won the main event last year, we're in the same main event this year, but we were talking the day before, and he was talking about, in one of the leagues he fell on the hand grenade that is Estevez. And I thought it was a perfect way of describing it there. But yeah, just definitely one of those where it's just like, you could see it coming. Anyone who paid attention in spring training saw the velocity reports. And it's not just that velocity is down. If it's down 2 miles an hour, that's still scary. But when it's down 5 or 6, like
insane.
Ooh.
Insane.
Yeah.
Frank Stamfel from CBS is the guy who won him in the Champions League, and he said something like, like whatever, if it was so cheap around 17, and if he gets off to a bad start, I'll just drop him. Okay, Frank. Well, now you can just drop him, but he kind of torched your team for the first week. And I don't know. I haven't looked at Frank's matchup. Maybe he's got good pitching going elsewhere, and the head-to-head makes it a little more digestible. Like if he costs Frank his ratios in the first week, and he just dropped them today. Whatever, you know what I mean? You lost a couple of categories in the first week. Maybe you lose your matchup because of him in the first week. Maybe you find a way to win it anyways, but then he's off your roster. It's not like Roto where you're paying for it, for a long time to dig out of what he did to you.
Right.
But anyways, so probably the last time we'll talk about him this year.
Let's talk about the Texas Rangers. Got a question in there from Luis. Is Tyler Alexander legit for saves on the Texas Rangers. Has 2 saves now. Got the full 9th inning yesterday. Looked good in doing so. However, I don't think either other top Rangers relievers were available in this game. I know Chris Martin had pitched 2 days in a row. What do you think about the Texas Rangers situation? What do you think about Tyler Alexander? Not exactly your prototypical closer type.
Exactly. I'm not there yet. Like, I would add him, like, if I had a free roster spot. I think all of the relievers that we've discussed today, I would rather have, like Romano, Beater, Seawald. I'd rather have all of them than him. So I'll take him over anyone on the Rockies.
Yeah.
I would
anyone on the A's. I'm ready. I'm almost putting the A's in the same class as the Rockies.
Yep, I'll take him over anyone on the A's. I would not drop Riley O'Brien or Jojo Romero for him. How about that? I would still wait on that one. Okay. I'm not totally buying the Ryan Stanek thing yet. So I would still hold on to the Cardinals guys. I'm just doing a quick scroll through some of the teams, see if there's anyone else that I would still. Okay. How about this one? This is easy. Would you drop Robert Garcia or Chris Martin for him?
No.
Me neither. Not. I think I would not. So I think I would only add him just if I kind of had just like a loose, empty roster spot. Like maybe I'm in a daily transaction league and someone goes on the IL and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Sure. I'll pick him up. He's got 2 saves. I'll see if he gets another save this week. And if not,
no one picked him up in my main event league, but that was obviously on Sunday when he only had the 1 save.
How many Rays would you take over him? So you take Griffin Jack still over him.
Griffin Jack's Brian Baker. I would
and Clevenger.
I have Clevenger in a league. I have Jack. Yeah, the Rays are going to be a nightmare all year though.
Absolutely. So would you take a shot at Alexander saying, just get these Rays off my roster? Just, I'm not doing this. So I'll take Alexander, and then when he doesn't have any saves in a week, I'll drop him for someone else. But at least I've just purged myself. I can't drop Griffin Jacks for him. And Clevenger's actually a really good pitcher. I don't know. I think I don't know. I think I still keep the Rays over Alexander.
I want to see what happens in their next save situation. I want to see this. Luckily, we have the week for the bullpen here. And that's one of the things I want to be able to see that, because I do think that's going to matter. We'll see, whether it was really a case of, just unavailable pitchers or they just trusted them, and the thing is, it's not Bruce Bochy anymore. It's Skip Schumacher making these decisions. So, does he think a little differently? And that's just a question about that. So that is one I want to decide there. I might take him over Clevenger at this point in time. Clevenger pitched the 8th yesterday. Jax pitched the 7th yesterday. But I'd cut Kevin Ginkel for him, by the way. Ginkel pitched the 6th with an 8-0 lead. He's not in the picture anymore. I think we're pretty comfortable with Seawald, actually. I think I'm declaring Seawald as a closer. I'm calling it. It's like calling an election. Yeah. I'm calling Seawald in Arizona. Yeah. Arizona goes for Seawald.
I guess I made the whole with Seawald. I made the whole Emilio Pagan speech. Tyler Alexander, I think, is even lower than Emilio Pagan was.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Like, he's never even.
He's lower than Cole Sands for me now.
No. Yes, for sure. So, but he does have 2 saves. I understand the take on the Rays. You are also like you are mining for gold. So dropping some of these guys who. Like maybe I should be thinking, yes, I would drop Jojo Romero for him, because there's probably not a great chance that Jojo Romero is the Cardinals closer. Like his high end is probably sharing the closer's role. Whereas I guess at least there's like a 5%, 10% chance that Tyler Alexander is the Rangers closer. I just don't think he is, but at least there's a chance.
Yeah.
I guess based on the 2 saves.
Yeah. Got some home runs today, by the way. Ezekiel Duran is homered. Okay. Brian Reynolds is homered, and so is Ryan O'Hearn. Tough look at
any of those guys on any of my teams. So there you go.
I have Brian Reynolds in the main event, so I knew that. Yeah. Brandon Williamson, by the way, tough look. 5 runs, 5 hits, 2 walks through 2 innings, 5-0 game there. So tough look. The Reds just lost their first ball strike challenge. Sal Stewart did it there. Their hitters had been undefeated in their challenges prior to that. Just in case anyone was really wanting to know, doing these later shows, we can do updates. I kind of like that, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We've gone almost an hour and we haven't even gotten to the topic that we teased a little bit here. And that is it too early to make trades? So say you got shut out on any of these closers. well, you kind of want to get going because you don't know when the next one's going to come up. And it's not just that though, too. It's challenge trades. It's everything. So is it too early to make trades?
Yeah, it's definitely not. I mentioned a couple of things to you in our notes that I've said, a few times over the years that like people get married to their roster as soon as they draft it. And if it's an auction, like I can kind of see it. Although still, like you and I have done lots of auctions. As soon as the auction ended, if you just restarted it, you end up with not the exact same team. But at least with an auction, maybe you could be a little married to your roster. In a draft league, like sure. Half your roster is based on what draft pick you got. Like really, the first probably 10 rounds at least is probably based on which draft pick you got. And if you just flip the order of all the teams, they'd have different rosters. So don't get married to your team and be like, oh, that's my guys. I drafted them. Like they're the ones I wanted. Like some of them were just fit a need or just fit your draft slot. And then also like the opinions start changing as soon as the draft ends. Like if you redrafted your league right now, guys would be moving all over the place. Where would these rookies go now? And where would the, Paul Skeens go now? And I ran some polls over the weekend. I was just kind of bored and on the weekend and just looking, I was interested. Right. And how much had Paul Skeens' value diminished already?
None. Come on.
Very, very little. 25% of people said they would take Christopher Sanchez over him if they were drafting today. So 1 in 4 said they would take Chris Sanchez. Yeah. And Christopher Sanchez is no slouch, right?
And he had a lot of helium. Yeah.
And he could finish ahead of Skeens on a better team, and he eats a ton of innings himself. So anyways, so it's not about him slipping in everyone's eyes. It's just a slip in one person's eyes, the person who has him. So anyways, all these things. Chase DeLauder. I threw out a poll on Chase DeLauder versus Jackson Chourio. Who would you rather have for the rest of the year? And some people were like, that's outrageous. Of course you'd rather have Chourio. Well, some people, about 20% of people said, no, I'll take DeLauder. At that point, he had 3 homers. Now he's got 4. And you're not having Jackson Chourio for a month. So who hits more homers this year, Jackson Chourio or Chase DeLauder?
Chourio ended up is around 20 the first 2 years. So yeah,
right.
So is he going to hit on a breakout there?
Right. So if he hits, he's going to miss a month. So he could play better and still just hit 20 again. Well, at this point, is Chase DeLauder going to hit 20? It certainly looks like it. Maybe Chourio steals a few more bases. I don't know. Like it's just Chase DeLauder projects as somebody who can hit for a decent batting average. So he's hitting high in the lineup. So anyways, it was just a few days in. It was just interesting pointing out Jackson Chourio was a 2nd round pick. Chase DeLauder was like a 21st round pick. And it was actually, people were actually thinking about whether they were going to click on which name they were going to click on already after an injury in a few days. So anyways, I threw out I went to the Yahoo trade market page today. I grabbed a few 1-for-1s just for interest sake, just to get people's minds thinking yeah, maybe I should, if I'm like, man, I missed out on Weatherholt, maybe I could go make an offer for him. Maybe the person who has him might be open. I don't know.
Yeah, shoot your shot. Don't be outrageous about it.
Absolutely.
I think that's it. Like we had a, Joe Chris in the comments said he offered DeLauder for Rooker, and that was snap rejected. And of course, it should be rejected.
Yeah.
And you got to be careful you don't offer too many low ball offers. People stop trading with you. You want to be able to have something that's somewhat viable as far as your trade talks go.
And I threw out in our notes some challenge trades that are fun because they're like the same player or same position or whatever. But one of the ones I threw out was DeLauder for Sonny Gray. And I thought that was a really interesting one. Like Sonny Gray's first start was kind of underwhelming. He's kind of was picked in the range of about pick 130. If we were redrafting right now, I bet Chase DeLauder would go in the range probably of pick 130. That feels totally fair. And if it met the needs of the team, if someone with DeLauder was like, actually, I just took him as my 5th outfielder. My offense is really good. But I could use a pitcher, that's the kind of trade that could make some sense. And someone with Sonny Gray might've been like, oh, I've got Sonny Gray, but I also took Connolly early. And I also took Parker Messick. Oh, I could afford to part with Sonny Gray, who is reliable and I still believe in, and I would still draft in the same range. So there's some interesting, if you start looking around your league, you come up with some pretty interesting trades already. And these are just 1-for-1s because they're simple to talk about, but you can get into 2-for-2s or whatever and figure some things out. And it's fun already.
So let's take a look at some of these deals here. JJ Weatherholt has been traded 1-for-1 for Freddie Peralta, James Wood, Stephen Kwan, and Chase Burns. All interesting deals there. Any of those jump out to you as bad deals?
I would take all of them over Weatherholt, except maybe Kwan. Kwan would be close. I might take Weatherholt over Kwan because I think there's just more power with Weatherholt. But
Yeah.
I'm not usually the high guy on Stephen Kwan. I just find him a little bit lackluster in category. And he's not a 300 hitter usually. He's a 280 hitter, and it's just more like 10 homers and 18 steals. Like it's just a little lackluster, and not a lot of RBI either. 55, something like that. So I find him a little. I'm often not as high as the market on him, but the other guys I would take them all over Weatherholt. But again, there's your shiny new toy, as Scott Pianowski says. You go out and offer him for maybe someone who. The Chase Burns trade came probably before he made his first start, which is where he looked good. But I think there's definitely helium with these rookies. That one I put in there was Carson Bench for Jacob Wilson. That's a gap of probably like 7 or 8 rounds back when we drafted. That Benj is probably and to me that trade feels actually pretty fair. Benj probably hits more homers and steals more bases than Wilson. Wilson probably hits for a better batting average by a decent amount. So I think that one's already a pretty fun trade.
Yeah. You mentioned 2 Brewers, Jackson Chourio for Bryce Terang. I think that one's interesting.
Totally. It's how far is Jackson Chourio falling? I would take Bryce Terang now over Chourio. I think I'd have to, well, before I would do that, I don't have any shares of Chourio, so I would want to like really dive deep into the timeline, but I'm picturing like a month. I just want to go on the late end, maybe even the late end plus a week or two when it comes to early season injuries. As Scott, so I'm quoting Scott all over the place, but injury optimism.
I'll do that too. Don't worry.
Injury optimism is never your friend, right? So I don't want to be the guy who trades for Chourio thinking he's going to miss the low end and then he misses the high end plus 2 weeks and everything. So I would probably go Bryce Terang. I was trying to, but it made me think about how late Chourio would go if we were drafting now, and would he go inside the top 100 picks? I don't know. I think it would be close. I think that's probably about where he would be, inside the top 100, but not by much.
All right. This is the part of the podcast. We're talking Brewers. We have a new tool over at RotoWire. I want to demonstrate. It's called RotoWire Smart Money. I want to show everybody what it's about. And if you want to get in some plays on RotoWire Smart Money, you can check it out for yourselves. It's a way to help you get good bets, or it's also a good way to use player props. If you're doing prize picks, you're doing underdog. I'm going to kind of show you real quick how you can do it with, I'm just looking for this Brewers game tonight. Fun game going up against the Rays. We got Woodruff going up against McClanahan. So just showing that you can look and say if you're looking for a player prop in that game, and I'm here in California, we can look for baseball props there, and you can see that. And then you just search for Brewers on the page, and there's a few of them out there, like dealing with Cedric Mullins prop. There's a Shane McClanahan under on outs recorded. I like this one quite a bit. And what this is showing too is smart bettors are out there. They're looking for they're looking for positions, whether it's on Kalshi, where they're getting blocked at their sports book, so they're doing it on the market, like the trade markets like Kalshi or things like that there. And then you can go around and find the best price on that there. That's what RotoWire Smart Money will help you do. And the reason I like the under on the McClanahan outs is just the way the Rays manage their pitchers. Obviously, is one of the ways I like that. So under 15.5 means you're not getting 2 outs into the 6th inning. I think that
looks really smart to me.
Yeah.
Really
so that's just a demonstration of it. Go find your own. You can kind of find a couple of ways you can play with that there. But as I like Shane McClanahan, I had to make a decision in LABR, Fred, because I picked up 3 pitchers in our league in LABR. I have to start them all this week. That's the rule that we have. Anytime you pick up a player in free agency, you have to use them that first week. Because of that, I had to make a tough decision. Like, do I sit Shane McClanahan against the Brewers? Do I sit Drew Rasmussen? Do I sit somebody else? Someone good is going to sit on my team. And that was a tough call. I ended up going with McClanahan as my sit.
Yeah, that is a really tough call. I think there's a lot of variance with McClanahan early in the season until we see what how he fares in the regular season. So I think that was a fair call. But the LABR one definitely puts. I was mad at you because you stole my Mlodzinski and Randy Vasquez with your super high bids on them. I thought my $4 and $5 bids would easily get them. Anyways, and I finished second on them. But you paid for it with all these tough starting pitcher decisions. But I actually really like the idea that you're just stockpiling like a major league team. You're stockpiling starting pitching to hope that you'll always have enough. That was what I was trying to do. I was trying to get them both, just not for as much as you spent on them.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I I got one reliever in Stanek, who I don't love, but also
taking a shot.
Yeah, but I'm taking a shot, and because I'm a little soft at closer again. That was one of the things I had to do. On my team, I've got one good closer in Aroldis Chapman. I'm very content with him. But after that, I'm like, I don't really have a good second closer there. So I have Kyle Finnegan still on my team. I have Messick on my bench in that league. That's one of the consequences to picking up those 3 pitchers. I picked up Vasquez. I picked up Stanek. I picked up Mlodzinski. Do I sit Cade Horton? Do I sit Connolly early? Do I sit Nolan McLean?
Those are good problems to have, Jeff. Good problems to have. And if in a week you have the same dilemmas, then it's gone really well.
Yep. Well, and in contrast, I don't have any bench hitters this week. I have 0 bench hitters. I put Mickey Moniak on IL. That one kind of surprised me, by the way. That came out of the blue. Yeah. But I'll probably cut Finnegan next week there. I'll probably cut Jacob Lopez. I might cut him. We'll see. I still am carrying River Ryan in the event that the Dodgers call him up, but that's probably going to be a cut soon. Yeah. That's one. See, and that's one where I won't mind, churning that for a hitting spot next week. And we have $0 bids this year in LABR also, which I thought people would be a little bit more aggressive in free agent bidding because we had the $0 bids. The flip side is it's not like we had that one stud prospect getting the call yet either.
No, I agree with you though. I thought people would be more aggressive too, and they haven't been. And that's how I ended up not getting Mlodzinski, because last week I put in $5 on Sewald and $4 on Chris Martin. And I was like, oh, I'll get one of these guys max, maybe none. Especially opening week, bidding's usually pretty intense. And then I was like, and then I'll get one, and then I'll get Mlodzinski for $1 because nobody was in on him last week. I bought him in all my NFBC leagues for $1. Last Sunday. And then I was shocked when I got up Monday morning to be like, whoa, I got both relievers. And therefore I didn't get Mlodzinski. And I was like, I'll just go back at him next week. And then I upped it all the way to $5 thinking I would get him for sure. But you're right. I find the bidding has been very tepid so far, considering that we now have $0 bids. So now it relates now it's kind of just the same as NFBC, right? Like you bidding 11 on Mlodzinski is kind of like $110 bid.
It is. It didn't
used to be. It used to be more than that.
Yes, it did. It absolutely did. For 2 things, I was eyeing Mlodzinski before, but didn't get him. Didn't bid on him last week because I didn't know if he's going to get the start over the weekend. I was like, I'll just hold off and see how he does in this first time if he does get the start. Well, then he got 8 strikeouts. Okay, I'm in. James Anderson also had him as his most rostered player. RotoWire's James Anderson, in part because of the price point when it took to get him. We had him before the season. He said it was his most rostered pitcher. So I was like, that's an endorsement. That's an endorsement it's worth following for me too. So that was another reason I was in on him over maybe some of the other starting pitchers this week. Definitely made a priority of getting him where he was available. And, he wasn't available in every league. So and I felt like I just wanted more starting pitching depth. How it's going to matter. You're going to need that there. Yeah. And you want to have as many options as possible in your pitching matchups too.
Absolutely. I might be coming to you for a trade in the next couple of weeks. If this starting pitching depth holds, like I said, if you're sitting there next week saying, I've got like 10 great options to put in my rotation or my starting lineup, amongst starting pitchers this week, and I got to fit relievers in, like I might be coming to you for a trade.
What do you get the guy who has everything, Fred?
A hitter.
I need it. Yeah. And that I will definitely take. The fact is that I think, what did I have to do? I had to do some little machinations to make everything fit. I think I'm starting Luis Rengifo at second base this week. Yeah, that was the thing and I'm putting Caballero in the outfield. So yes, I could use an outfielder or a second baseman. That is most likely is my option there. So, but yeah, I think I can find those too. I can find outfielders. It'll be fun. Trying to do so. I also have Addison Barger, who's off to a terrible start for the Jays as my third baseman. So who knows? Maybe I could use a third baseman at some point too.
Yeah, he'll probably come around. Addison Barger did have a bad second half last year. It got masked by him having such a great playoff. Yeah. But if you're a Jays fan and you're paying close attention all season, he actually did have a bad second half. So
true.
And during the second half, it kind of seemed like maybe pitchers had figured him out a little bit, and or maybe the season was just wearing him down. But then he turned it all around in the playoffs, so all was forgiven. So we'll see. He'll come around. I wouldn't be super worried about him.
Indeed. All right, Fred. Good stuff today. Fun talking about trading early, some of the guys we picked up and all that. love talking ball, and I like this new hour here. I like our regular time better, but I do like this hour because we have games going on, and that's always nice. Just having games going on, period, is great.
Yeah. Yes. So glad. I loved the draft season, but I was ready for it to end. I'm glad we got games now.
Yeah. At the time, I was like, did I do enough? Oh my God, am I prepared enough? Now I'm like, thank God it started. Enough of this projection. Now we can actually see things actually happening. All right, that's going to wrap.
We can start being wrong, actually, is what it really is.
Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly right. All right, that's going to wrap up today's podcast. Big thanks to our new sponsor, Sling. Thanks to RotoWire Smart Money. Check that out as well. Thanks to you guys for streaming with us and listening on the podcast. We'll be back at you. James Anderson tomorrow on the Prospect Pod on Wednesdays. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.